Jeez, we gotta go off this. How do we get out of it?
Oh, wait, share your screen with your audience. Click.
I just want to set it up. Do I look okay for color?
Well, let me get back and.
Can't see my Santa Claus or anything.
I would say so. I don't. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
then.
centered. You got a candle there. I don't know if you want that candle there or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna light them.
Okay, I'm gonna take the tops.
But you're not supposed to turn this on. What color is this on?
It's on red. You choose what you need it on. There's a purple one. There's a green one. Okay, we're away. So. What's that over there? Slow mode is on. Send a message every 1 minute. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines.
This looks all right.
I think you're everything.
And my sleigh
your
will light
background
up.
is
Well, the
Well, it
candle's
will.
in front of the sleigh.
good. Yeah, well, where do you want it? And do you want both or just the one? You got a purple and
Well, we can put them there, but you can't really.
you can't see them. Well,
I can do this, and then you can see them. But I don't want to see my other computer back there. But there. Is that computer on?
that's what's powering this.
Okay. We couldn't do it to the wall.
No.
Eh?
I haven't turned sleigh on the
So we're all ready to go. We just leave this on. We're not live yet.
Well, it was saying to share with your customers, so you could, I don't know, go out of there and come back into it.
Okay.
Hang on, put that down, put that down. You come in the house, it's dirty. Getting it up here.
You're out, I'm in.
Here, man.
You can't have that feed in my background. Turn your sound off. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Are you there? So today I'd like to talk to you about ghosts and reconnecting with people from your past that have passed on. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and thank you for stopping by. So many of us have loved ones that have passed on and we'd like to reconnect with them, perhaps spend a little bit of time feeling like they were still around. And that is possible. And it takes a little bit of thought, a little bit of practice, and just a little bit of relaxing. So if you'd like to learn how to do that and perhaps talk to spirits that have passed on, then that's what we're going to do. So, I'm sorry. So if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to ask and I will answer them as best I can. I should give you a little bit of information about me. I realized that I could see spirits when I was a child. and I have done readings for people now for approximately 45 years and perhaps a little bit longer. And to me, it's just a natural way of being. And I firmly believe that not just certain people can do it, but I believe that everybody should give it a try and see if they can connect with their loved ones. I've been connecting with my deceased mother for years, and I've always found it easy to do. The odd time I'll get my father in as well, connecting with, and sometimes I connect with my brothers that have passed. And it's not just on special occasions, it can be any day of the week. For people that I have helped, I have connected with their family members when they come in for a reading and they sit down. Sometimes I just say a person, it's a spirit, will be with them, standing behind them or beside them, and give me a mannerism, perhaps, and I will be able to read that mannerism and pass it on to the person who is asking for the reading. So if perhaps the spirit behind them was like twisting on a bracelet on their wrist or on their watch, I would start doing that. Or if they were fluffing their hair or whatever they were doing, I would be doing that. And that's how people understand that I'm connecting with that person from their past, because the mannerism that the spirit gives me is what that person remembers about how that spirit acted with them. So, how their loved one acted with them. So, if you want to connect, you need to relax your mind, not be stressed, angry, or frustrated. Sit in a quiet place. You don't even have to think about that person. You just have to totally relax yourself and let yourself go. Just relax. And generally just sit in a quiet spot. It can be dark, it can be in the middle of the day, it doesn't matter. And focus on just breathing and relaxing. If somebody is to come through, that is the time that they will come through. It doesn't always work on the first try. And I figure that's where the gift comes from with certain people like me, where I don't have to work on that first try or relax. It just comes naturally to me. But to most people, it doesn't. However, there are millions of people every year that see ghosts. There are millions of reports, and it has gone on this way for centuries. So if anybody thinks that somebody's going to think they're crazy because they've seen a ghost, you're not. You're not crazy if you see one. I've had a house that we bought that had pocket doors in the living room, and I did not want the doors open that particular night because my husband was doing some installing a window blind in the kitchen. And so I had the doors closed, and the man that originally owned that home, he didn't like the doors closed. So these giant oak pocket doors that had closed to the living room were banging and banging as I was sitting in the living room. And my husband didn't hear it in the kitchen. My son was in the room with me in the living room, and my daughter-in-law. And they both started to edge over from where they were sitting in the living room towards me. And I was watching these oak doors bang and bang and bang. And then all of a sudden, this ghost spirit of the man that used to live in the house, his name was Frederick, he came through at the upper part of the doors, just right, his arms right down to his elbow. He had on a white dress shirt, and he was just pale, muted blue white, and he was staring at us. And at that point, my son and my daughter-in-law both basically jumped on my lap, and they were 17, 18 at the time, so they were scared. And so I knew then I had to clear the house. So, and he had been doing things since I got to the home. And when we bought it, Frederick Spirit did not like doors closed. So he would turn the doorknobs and open the doors. And the kids were aware of that. And that didn't really seem to bother them that much. But that particular night, my older son, who never said much about ghosts or spirits or anything, he freaked right out. So I cleared the house, and I took them on the clearing with me so we could clear the house and get the ghosts gone. And after that, I never seen Frederick again. He never came back, but his wife did stop by probably about 6 months after that to the house to talk to me. And I said, "Oh, you're Frederick's wife." And she asked me how I knew. It's kind of an awkward thing to say, "Well, your husband's been wandering around the house, his spirit haunting it." So I didn't say that to her, but I said, "Oh, we realized it from some paperwork or something that was the man that lived here." And I told her he didn't like the doors shut, did he? And she said no. So it was just basically a confirmation of the fact that he had been there. Other ones that we had over the years were I had a sister-in-law that passed away, and when I got up the one morning, you would go downstairs to the family room, came out of the bedroom, looked down the stairs, and there she was standing at the bottom of the stairs. I've had my grandfather come to the backyard when he was passing to tell me he was passing on, so that I went in and called my mom and told her to give a call down to the nursing home, and sure enough, he had passed on. Sometimes with spirits, when they come through behind people, they have a particular message. It may not be something that you want to hear. It may not be something that you're interested at that time you're trying to express to them. It won't interest them. They have a particular agenda, and they just want to fire that out at you, and that's it. And as soon as you know that to them, that's enough. So could be something as simple as saying, well, one time I had a guy come through, the woman and her daughter came in. Her daughter had to be about 23 at the time. And when they walked in, I could sense something off the daughter right away. And when they sat down at the table, I told them, I said, he wants his shoes. So this particular man had been an Olympic runner, and he had passed away when he got older. He had fallen down a staircase, and so his ex-wife and his daughter, when they made the funeral arrangements, they got him new shoes. Well, this man only wore this certain pair of brown shoes, and they didn't bury him in those brown shoes, and that's what he came through. So before they sat in the chair, I said he wants his brown shoes. So that floored them, because they didn't know how I knew that he had brown shoes, but he did. He had brown shoes. And let me see. And then the daughter, when she finished sitting down and calmed down from that, me explaining that they could just bury the shoes on top of his grave, and that would be satisfactory enough for him, that I told her that she'd had a near-death experience, because I seen water around her and drowning. And sure enough, she had indeed had a near-death experience and almost drowned. So she carried that with her all the time, and she never, ever was able to get over that. So I worked with her about that and had them there for probably 45 minutes to an hour, and then they left. I had a man come the one time I was in Ontario, and he came to see me, and he said, "I'm going to be leaving and going away for Christmas. Is that okay?" And I said, "No, not this year. Don't go anywhere." He was going where there was a tsunami that was going to happen that nobody knew about, and I didn't know about, but I'd said to him if he went, he would die. So about 3 days after I did the reading, I got a knock on the door, and it was him. And his name was Doug. And I opened the door, and he gave me a big hug and told me I'd saved his life. So that was strange for me because, well, you don't realize that that's going to occur with people, that they're going to come back to the door and say something to you. Most time when I speak to a client, when they come in and give them the reading, I'll tell them just write everything down, and then when something happens that's on that paper, just mark it off. Because when I'm reading people, when they come back, I don't really remember all the reading that I gave them, because it just more or less just comes out and then it disappears for me. Like 95% of the time, I won't remember their names either. None of that is important to me. I pass the message along, and that's it. So, I mean, I've had premonitional dreams. I do readings. I clear houses for people. I can see ghosts. I can hear ghosts. I can clear the demons out. I can see the demons. It's easy to do. Anybody can do it. And I'd like to have further shows to show people how to do it. I'm just going to write in here. So this is the type of things that I do. And if you have any questions about a past loved one that you'd like to get in touch with, and how I can work with you, or if I can answer any questions for you, I would love to give it a try. And if you're willing to go along with me on that journey and let me try, I would love to. So if you have a question, a lot of times people ask me, they say, I still have my deceased spouse's ashes in the house with me. And I always tell people that they need to go sprinkle those ashes someplace, because you're basically holding that spirit back, and you need to just set them free and let it go. Let everything go. And you'll feel better, and they'll feel better, and the house won't be as heavy. And it happens quite often because we get trapped in the past and thinking about the deceased, and thinking if we keep the ashes, then we're keeping a piece of them with us. They're already moved on, but we still think we're keeping a piece. So for your own sake, you need to let go, and you will reconnect with them. A lot of times you'll think, was that a message? And generally it was a message, and you don't, like at the time, you'll start questioning it. But if you relax, the message will come through loud and clear. If you were to want to read, say, tarot cards to connect, I don't suggest it. But if you're going to get tarot cards, you need to keep the box that they come in with the cards wrapped in a black cloth. And when you take your cards out of the box, you need to wave them over a white candle that's lit 12 times and clear them. And then once you've cleared them, you need to select the cards that you want from that deck, take the other cards and put them back in the box and cover them over with the black cloth, and use only the cards that you have out. And once you've used those cards, put them back in the box and cover it with the cloth. And always use that process of clearing ahead of time and keeping that black cloth over the box, because if you don't, you're going to find negative energies starting to come through, kind of like a Ouija board, which I really don't advocate people using. I'm really not fond of tarot cards either. It's not that I can't read them. It's just that what happens with the cards drawing energy after people have finished, if they don't clear them ahead of time and put them away properly, can cause negative health effects on you, in my opinion, and can cause negative things to happen around the house on you. So clear it as much as you can. And so if you're going to use those and you'd like me to do a show on how to protect yourself from negative energies, then I will do a show on that. I get a lot of phone calls. People ask me about past loved ones, and I do readings for them over the phone. So I want to try to do it on the computer today with people and see if I can connect to some of their lost loved ones. And if that's something that you want to do, then that's something that, just text me and in the chat, and we will work on it together. So if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to ask a question, and I will answer the question for you as best I can. And if it's about a loved one, just talk to me about how your day's going. You don't have to tell me anything about your loved one. I'll do that part. I don't like information about that, but I don't mind talking to you about your day and how it's going. And, because today a lot of people are home, they're alone. There's not as many people that go out to big gatherings. And so I thought this would be a good day to get on and introduce myself and help some of you that are lonely, missing your loved ones. Totally understand that. And I can help you to connect with them, then I will. So let me see. I can tell you about some of my other incidents that have happened. I have had, when I was a child, I had a demon come, and that took several years to clear the house, from one house to the next that he followed us. And I was able to clear that. So I want to do a show on teaching people how to clear their home. For the most part, in my opinion, most people can clear their own house. And then from there, you can go on to getting somebody to help you if need be. But a lot of times you don't need somebody to help you. You just need to know how to do it yourself. Because a lot of people and a lot of these ghost people charge a lot of money to come in and investigate your house and set up equipment and do clearings. I know when I was a child, my mom had a priest come in and he charged her. And at that time, it was a lot of money to do the clearings, and they didn't work. So that's something that we can do together and learn about. And it should be something that you find enlightening, easy. And there's not a lot of hocus pocus and things like that. It's just very simple to do. My adult children all have some abilities to do this. I don't know if it skips generations or not. I know my grandfather and my aunt had it on my mother's side. That's where it came from. And my husband has none, obviously. And he's never seen a ghost, though he doesn't doubt it. He's been my writer. When I do readings for people, he will do all the writing for them, because generally I go so fast that the person just can't keep up. So he'll do the writing. He's used to me. But the I've tried tape recorders. They tried recording my voice, and that didn't work. I kind of thought that had something to do with me not being able to wear a watch, but I don't know. There's no scientific evidence or no factual scientific testing for somebody that has abilities. Because how do you test for something that has always existed and there is no way to test for that? They just can't test you. They can throw a series of questions, whether you're pass or fail has nothing to do with your abilities. That's their way of trying to get you to fail and say, see, that doesn't exist. In actuality, it can exist. It's just not something that's in the mainstream of understanding. I don't know why it's been put that way by so many people, but it has. It's truly it's actual that people can do it. It's not a myth. But science, if it can't put its thumb on it, it doesn't accept it. So once you learn how to do something like what I do, you can accept the fact that you can do it, and you just walk on without letting that science or that ideology from the psychology fields that will tell you that it is not something that you're able to do when you actually can do it. You don't need a drug just because you see somebody, in my opinion. You need just people to say, oh yeah, that's interesting, instead of saying to you, ooh, that's strange, you're doing something wrong. You're not. I'm not a religious person. I'm not a spiritual person. I believe in a higher power. I believe in the great divine. I believe in meditation. I believe in inner peace. I do not believe in going into a building and conforming to something to make myself feel better. So if you do that, I've got no problem with it, but I don't do it. And so when I did a lot of readings in a certain area that I lived in Ontario, I found there was a lot of churches around me, and there was a lot of negativity towards what I was doing. Okay. There. Sorry, I had to fix that chat bar to see if it works. So for me, this is new. So I'm trying to keep up with the at the same time, keep up with the chat. There. I've had people come, I've done charity events, I've had them lined up for 3 blocks, never got through everybody. I had one particular guy come and sit on the stage where I was doing this charity event, and just as he was about to sit, because I usually do this to people, so he wasn't totally in the chair, he was almost sitting down, and I said, you have the Star of David around you and you're hiding it. And at that point, he plunked himself down really hard in the chair, and he stared at me, and he asked me how I knew that. And I said, because I can tell you have the Star of David around you. And he had a sweater on, so he reached down inside and he pulled out the medallion that he had on his neck, and it was the Star of David, because he was Jewish and they were hiding it. This was probably about 30 years ago. So after sitting with him for about a half an hour and explaining to him, he had said he was afraid to show his Jewish side, that he always hid it because he was told to hide that. So by the time he left there, he wasn't going to hide it anymore. And I never heard from him again, but you know, that's to be expected. I don't expect people to call me back and tell me how it went, but I will get some strange phone calls. Sometimes people will call me and they'll say, "You're right. I did find that," or "Oh, this date was important," or "Oh my God, you were right. Somebody did break into my house and steal something." And I'm like, I don't even know who the person is on the other end of the phone. And then they'll explain to me that they were at my house on a certain date and I told them something, and I'll go, "Okay, good. I'm glad. I'm glad that it's, that things are being ticked off your list. Just keep the list and just keep ticking them off." I've had a friend phone me and tell me that they lost something. It was a ring and it's really important to them. It was their grandmother's. And I said, "I see it. It's hanging. It's in mesh." So she couldn't find it. And about a week after that, she was standing in the kitchen and it dawned on her. She had some sort of mesh baskets that hung from the ceiling that she put her onions and her potatoes and things in. And somehow that family heirloom, that ring, was dropped down into there. And when she called me, she said, "I found it. It was in the mesh basket with the potatoes and onions." And I'm like, okay. So, yeah, so I can do things like that. I can help people to find things. I can help people to see the deceased. I can help people to, I call it a release. Sometimes you'll cry, sometimes you'll laugh, sometimes you'll cry and laugh. Um, because when I read and I take that feeling or that doubt or that sadness or that question that you had away, and you realize that there is somebody there that you're missing, you seem to get teary eyed or giggly. And I know that the spirit has had an effect on you. But people tell me as they leave that they feel much better for the reading. So those are the type of readings I do. So I want to try to do it from now till in January sometime, over the course of the next few weeks, getting people adjusted to what I can do. And we'll do a little bit more every day, and we'll bring more and more views up. If you've had any ghost experiences in your home, if you've had any demons, if you've had any weird occurrences, if you've lost somebody and you feel like you're connecting with them, but you're not sure, or you've lost someone and you feel like they just never came back, that can happen. But there is a possibility that you can pass a message on to them or they can pass one on to you. Sometimes it's just that you're blocking how you feel. And you have to learn to let go of that. And that's what I'm going to try to help you with so that you can talk to those people. So if you're lonely and you feel like you need that help, please feel free to text me and I will help you. And it could be a pet that is passed on that the odd time I'll have one of my dogs come through or a cat come through from the past. You can have, most of the times when an animal visits, they generally are just running in a field, or they'll just come and they'll sit beside you. Sometimes you have dreams and you're going to have something weird occurring in your dream. I can help you with those too. Understanding the messages and that are coming across in your dreams. And that usually comes from your psyche and trying to push you forward and help you. So if you want help with that, you can do that as well. The And sometimes you'll go someplace and you'll visit and you'll get an eerie feeling and you won't want to go down into a basement or something. Like one time we went to look at a house that was for sale, and it was in southwestern Ontario. And that particular piece of land had been used for a massacre years ago. And it was in the 18th century. And so I didn't know anything about it until after we had looked it up after we'd gone to the home. So when we went to the home, I sent something when I got out of the car. So the real estate agent, who was a woman, and my husband and I had gone in to look at this house. So when we stepped into the house, even though there was a big window in the living room and the sun was shining, the house did not feel very bright inside or warm. It felt cold. And as you walked further into it, it felt heavy. Well, by the time we walked probably 10 steps into that house, we left. You could feel just an ominous, horrid presence in there. And I said to the real estate agent, that house is haunted. But my husband and the real estate agent left and went out. And I went out, and you didn't want to go near the basement in that house. And you knew you had to leave. So then when we looked it up, we found out that it had been used in that time. There was a massacre on that land it had been used for. And so the spirits that were there were the spirits of all those people that had been tortured, tormented. So we've had incidents like that occur. I've had people come in and sit down and talk to them and give them initials of people that are having an affair, and turns out to be the initials of their spouse and their sister-in-law. So there's all kinds of things that come through in a reading. Sometimes you don't really want those type of things to come through, but they come through anyhow. And it really makes you think. It really does, because I don't ask the person for their name when they sit down. I don't ask you for the name of your loved one. I don't want to know about your issues in the past. I don't want to know about your relationship with the person that you're trying to get a hold of. I just simply want you to sit down, relax, have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, talk with me, and everything will come through. And I generally ask people to not ask me questions until the end. And by the time the end comes, in 99.9% of the cases of the people that I have done readings for, I've generally answered their questions without them even asking me. And they'll say, no, you answered everything. And it's because I only answer what comes through. So if your Aunt Phyllis comes through and she has to tell you that she doesn't like the fact that you've stuffed her ashes under the bed, that will come through. Or if your mom has passed on and she wants to give you a message that she wants you to take better care of yourself or something, she's going to tell me exactly what it is that you're not doing right. Or your spouse comes through. I had a woman come to me one time. This was probably 5 years ago, and she was from right here in town, and she had been in an abusive relationship, and he had left. So I didn't know this when I was starting the reading. This is what I got from the reading. And she was renting a place, and I told her that the place that she was renting, I said, you got to clear it. And I told her how to clear her apartment. was the top floor of a house. And I said to her, your one closet, that's where he is. So I said, and I don't find his head right. And it wasn't right before he passed, and it's distorted now. So he had red rummed himself out of anger, and I found his spirit was in her closet, and he was quite an aggressive, nasty person in life. And when he came through as aggressive and nasty, and looking a little distorted from how he had passed on. And so that's how I see people. So so when she cleared that, she said she was actually able to sleep through the night. And the funny thing about that was she had a cat, and she had, I believe it was 2 little dogs at the time. And I said to her, the animals don't like that area. And she said to me, no, that her cat and her dogs would go nowhere near the closet. They would only stay to the one side of the bedroom. But once that was cleared, that went away. And it made life easier for her. And she didn't even realize that he could do something like that after all that time, still be, because her relationship with him had been 10 years prior to that. And she didn't know that when he passed on, as angry as he was and how he had passed on, that he was going to come back as a spirit and be in her closet. But that's what he did. I have had people come through and tell me that they want they appreciate the flowers that you put on their grave yesterday. Now, I didn't know that the person had gone to the cemetery the day before, and I certainly didn't know that they had placed flowers on a grave, or that another instance, a sister-in-law phoned me, and it was after my brother had passed, and she had been out, and she'd come home, and I guess she'd bought some white roses, and she set them on the table. And when she called me, and I said, well, how you doing today? And she said, okay. And I said, he likes the white roses that you have on the table. And she just freaked right out, because she couldn't figure out how I knew that there was roses on the table when we were talking just on the cell phone, no picture. So she sent me a picture of the flowers, and she said that made her feel better to know that he was still watching over her. It made me feel better too, because I haven't, when your brother dies, or your spouse dies, or your best friend dies, those are all incidents of people that have passed on, and you often wonder, are they around? Can they see you? Can they hear you? And they can. It doesn't mean that they stick around to do that. When we pass on, our energy goes to another energy plane. So we are made of energy, and our energy, our soul, goes elsewhere to another energy plane and lives. Which particular plane it's going to go to depends on the state of mind that you are in when you leave here. If you're at peace when you leave, you're going to go to a good place. If you are angry, you are violent, you have committed violent acts, and that you're going to go elsewhere. Now, I don't believe in heaven and hell, but I do believe in energy planes. I believe in what the spirits tell me, so I go by that. I have never had a spirit come through and tell me, oh, I've seen the great divine, I have seen the devil. I've never had anybody say that. I've had a demon come through that I believe was my mother's ex-husband, and he was quite evil. And I believe that that's why he possessed that type of energy to come back as a demon. when somebody comes through that is autistic that's passed, or somebody that comes through that has mental illness, or somebody that comes through that had an addiction to, say, alcohol or a substance, a pharmaceutical substance, whether it's legal or illegal, if they were high or they were inebriated, or you had mental illness at the time that you passed, or you have a mental, I don't say challenge, I say a mental gift that, that you don't see the world the same as the other people, you're going to come through exactly like you are. I had a lady come through to see me the one time, and her spirit of her sister came through, and her sister suffered from schizophrenia. And so when her spirit came through, she was jumping all over the place, and she couldn't sit still, and she was spinny, and she was literally spinning around the room and moving and talking and not making much sense and grabbing, and just, and to have that type of energy around your body it's gonna be hard on your whole system. You're not gonna sleep well. You're gonna be jittery. So getting her sister to move on, and getting the message that her sister wanted was that she just loved her and she missed her. And so once all that was settled and the spirit went on, that lady, when she went home, she slept better that night from that. And she never had that jitteriness again. So those are the type of things that come through. Autism. I look at autistic people as highly intelligent, and they just can't converse on the same level that we are. And so when you look at them, it doesn't register in their head the same way as it registers in ours. I don't know if they find one word and then they miss 10 words that you say, but to them, it's not as important. When they come through, they're going to come through the same way. So if they're autistic, they're still autistic. If you have mental illness, you're still going to have mental illness. If you were inebriated when you passed on, you're still inebriated. That doesn't change. You don't come back to being the person prior to that you were. So if that answers that type of a question for people. Things that people need to realize is when it's somebody's time to pass on and you're with them, that generally some people from their past that have passed on come to get them, to take them on with them. I've been with my dad when he passed, and his younger brother and mother came, and he was in a coma when he passed, my father, and I spoke to him and I told him that it was time to go, that his mom and his brother were there, and he turned his head and he looked right at me, and he was in a coma. So it's an acknowledgement, and it's to me, it's nice to know that they can still hear me and that I'm helping them to pass on. So I've done that with people, help them with their passing. Some people fight passing, they don't want to go. Other people don't. They're just willing to just pass on. And their transition is faster. Why some seem to linger and stay around or come back, I think it has something to do with your soul and your energy wanting to draw them back because you're missing them. And if they're able to do it, they're going to come back and see you. So if you want to try to talk to a loved one, that's something that we can do. We're happy to do it with you. There's no magic to it. It's easy to do. If you were to get a reading from me, it's usually 45 minutes to an hour. And I just ask you if you want to know the good and bad, and I will read everything that I see, and I will give you names and dates and talk to you about the people from the past, the present, uh, your physical well-being. I see everything. Like if you sit down and you have high blood pressure, I'm going to see you as red. If you sit down and you have issues with your liver, I'm going to see you as green. And if you have issues with your kidneys, you're coming through as yellow. If there's an area of your body that has a hot spot, like say you have an injury in your shoulder or your neck, that's going to come through as red, and it's going to come through in that particular area. If I find that you are suffering from mental illness like bipolar or um, schizophrenia, it's going to come through, and it's going to show me spinniness. And, obviously I'm going to redirect you to somebody to help you. The Your body, when you sit down, to me shows me different colors, not on the outside, but on the inside. So when I look at you, I look right through you, I will see red in one area, and that's it. Or I will see green in one area, and that's it. I've had people come to me to see if I can tell that they've been having an affair. Generally, you can, right? There's the deceptiveness there to the person when they sit down. But yes, I will be able to tell. I will be able to give them names. The names just come. I don't know. So that's with people like that. There's people that come to me that have lost a child, and that's a very difficult situation for anybody to be in. I don't like to read people before they've gone through grief counseling and a year to a year and a half after, because you need that time for your own emotional well-being. You don't need to be sitting down with somebody being read, because that's going to be too much on you. I did a reading, and you can look it up. It's the reading Scotty, and it was of a little boy, and that passed on accidentally by his own hands. And his father came to see me, and his father had been trying to come and see me for, I'm going to say about 3 months, and his work schedule didn't work with mine. So when he did come, he had called me that day and said he really wanted to come and see me. And I said, sure, because I wasn't busy then. And our schedules worked. When he got there, I knew right away what was wrong with him. And I didn't know anything about what had happened. So when he came in the house, I felt his son beside him, like standing behind him. And the message that I got was that his son was grateful, that he loved the Matchbox cars that he had lined up in his casket. He had lined up 9 cars and 2 Chevy trucks. One was blue and one was red. So when I told him that, he said, there's no way you knew that, because I just came from the funeral home, and there was only the funeral director and I in there, and I put those in there and I closed the casket and I left and came over here. And I said, well, that's what Scotty's telling me, that he wants you to know that he's grateful that you did that, and he's saying thank you. So after I read him for a while, and he realized that I could speak, that his son was there, that he went back to the funeral home to where his ex-wife was, and had her in the room with him, with their son's casket, and everybody else out of the room except for the funeral director. And after talking to her and explaining to her what had happened, and she knew of my readings, after about 10 minutes, she wanted to see inside the casket. She hadn't seen. And she'd seen her son when he passed, but she hadn't seen since he'd been put in the casket. So when the funeral director opened the casket, she touched him and she gave him a kiss goodbye, but she also seen all the cars that were lined up in the casket. And then she realized, well, there's just no way. I don't really put that part in there, but the casket was sealed shut. So if anybody that knows anything about how they open and close, that wasn't just opening the lid, it was actually locked shut. And the funeral director opened it for them. So she knew that nobody else had been in there, and he knew that nobody else had been there. So they felt comforted by the fact that they knew that their son was trying to pass the message on, that he didn't mean to pass on so quickly. And he was just a little boy. So that was a really hard reading for me, because I don't feel that you can do enough for people when their children pass on. And but I did hear from them months later, and him a few days after that, and then a few months after that, and it helped them. Sometimes I go in the grocery store and I'll pass people and I'll say to my husband, that person's going to die. Or because that's just what I see. To me, it's like window shopping. When I walk into a room or into a store and I pass people, I read their energies. And so I work really hard on not to read everybody. But when I do read some people, if they have an illness like cancer, or they have a heart condition, when I walk past them, I'm going to tell them that person's going to die soon. That person's not well. And he's used to me doing that now. So that doesn't really affect him at all anymore. But I have walked up to people in the store and talked to them and just sparked up a conversation with them, and then passed a message to them. Then they look at me shocked that, how did you know that? But I feel that I was sent there to do that at that time while I was getting my groceries. So that's what I do. I go to the cemeteries sometimes. I used to go before and just yell out names when my kids were like teenagers. That was their thing. If you can find, like, they weren't to step on the graves. They were only to go between the rows. And I would give them somebody's name that was coming through, and they would go and find that tombstone with that exact name on. So that was a thing that we played when they were older. That was, I know, odd to people, but that's what we did. I have had a spirit of a little girl come through that died on a farm in a farming accident, and she couldn't understand why a house was built where she'd passed away under a tree. So took a long time to get her to move on. They don't scare me like spirits. I just if it's evil that's in a house, I will clear the outside of the house and the property before I'll clear the evil. I don't go to the archives in the library. I don't go and look for information on the house ahead of time. I don't want to know. I don't go to the local cemeteries and look around and see if I can find anybody in there. I just go to the house. I generally take salt. The odd time I will take water that I will clear myself over a candle. And I take candles. And I go in the house and I clear the house. And you leave one window open, and whatever's trapped, that energy needs to be able to get out one direction. You're pushing it. So you're starting at one end of a house and you're moving towards the direction that you want that energy to go out. And generally, when you do it, you will clear the whole area. And that makes it a lot easier for you. Anybody can do that. And I want to do a show on teaching people how to do that, so that you'll find it easy. I'm trying to think of a few more incidents of people that came through that were good. Well, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll have had what's called a premonitional dream. So generally what occurs is go to sleep, thinking about your day or whatever's been going on. That's what I do. And then I'll sleep, and I usually sleep till about 3 o'clock in the morning. One of these dreams will occur that is, I've had dreams of people being red rummed at the time that, like, I'm sleeping, I'm seeing what's happening. It could have occurred or it will occur. That part I'm never sure about. Has it already occurred, or is it going to occur within the next day or two? And the odd time, it's so disturbing, I'll wake up my husband because I'll have had, somebody visit me that I really don't want to see, which is usually, I can either see it through the eyes of the victim or I'll see it through the eyes of the perpetrator. The last one I seen through the eyes of a perpetrator. He had two victims and there was two perpetrators. And the victims were, I did not feel that they had passed on at that time. They were put into a container with the lid closed, side by side. They were children. That part I seen. There was an image of a young girl and an image of a boy that was younger than her, both put side by side in a container. I also seen the person who set the boy down in the container, set him down. The girl was already in there, but set the boy down in, kneeling. And I could see that he had on two beaded bands on this wrist, on his right wrist, as he put them down. And I could see a person off to the side that was another perpetrator. And I could see their arm, their forearm seemed thick here. And I knew that that was a female. When I got up in the morning from that, I didn't know of any cases like that that were out there. And I wasn't somebody that followed true crime. Didn't do that kind of stuff. But I did that day. And so I've looked into true crime now for probably 6 months and 6 to 7 months now. And I know that two children did pass at that time. I should say two children did go missing at that time. And I believe that those two children were the two children that I seen. And that got me interested in true crime. Generally, when I have one of those dreams, I don't go looking. I don't know what made me go looking that time. It wasn't something that I would do. I didn't turn on the news in the morning to see if somebody had died. That wasn't something I did. But if I was driving in the car and I heard about that day or the following day or, a week later or 3 days later, that incident occurred, then I was able to place it, because I can't go and talk to somebody and say, geez, I think this has happened or this is going to happen, because your law enforcement is not that receptive to that. And I don't want to have to go through that. So I generally just leave it. I wish I could do more. If that whole group of people that are so negative towards people that can do what I do would stop behaving that way, it would make it a lot easier to walk forward without that being interrogated and your life being put through a sieve just because you have a gift and you can help somebody. So I don't bother to do it, because I'm not going through that for anybody. There isn't a reason to put somebody that's on the other side of the country through that. There's no way that they had anything to do with that from the distance they are. And so you should be accepting of what they're telling you. But through watching other people who've gone before me and have come forward and put through the mill and everything that they go through their life, it is not worth it. So I will not do it. But helping people one on one, I am happy to do. And I always say it's in my opinion, because I don't want somebody to turn around and say, but you said, because I've had people come and I've read them and I've said X, Y, and Z to them, and they've turned around and they've gone home and they have taken that X, Y, and Z and they've twisted it into something else that they figure that it should be to suit them. And when that doesn't work and they come, they'll call me and say, well, I tried this, but I'm like, well, that's not what we were talking about. You didn't even have to try anything. You just have to just relax. They go, oh. So when you're given a reading, you don't need to go home and try to work on it. You need to go home, and if it's like you need to change the way you're eating or you need to not drink, whatever that is that's come through in the reading that somebody is telling you from the other side, you work your best not to do that. But you can't twist that around and say, well, I'll only have 3 drinks today and then, well, maybe tomorrow I'll have 4. That's not how that works. If the spirit comes through and they're concerned about something you're doing and they say that something you're doing, then generally just go get help for it and get rid of that problem. And that's what they were trying to do, was to try to push you towards that. I look at spirits as trying to better the people that they've left behind, to help them, but to better them. So if you lost a loved one and you're alone today and you find it difficult and you've got no family members that care, nobody that understands, and you're sitting there and you're lonely, perhaps drinking, perhaps doing something that's not healthy for your body, that's not the way that the people that have passed on would want you to be. So you have to let go of that and learn to relax and to meditate, to help yourself come to the realization that even though they're gone, you're not really alone. They're always there. They'll always care about you. And that you're the lucky one, and that you should still be doing things with your life instead of not living. So, and I know that it's difficult at Christmas time when you lose somebody, when you've lost your parents, when you've lost siblings, when you've lost children, when you've lost your spouse. You're always hoping to find that person. You're always hoping to see somebody around again. I'm just going to grab my phone for a second here, and just wanted to check on something. Yeah. So, if you care to delve into any of those subjects, if you care to help yourself to heal from the loss, if you care to feel, learn how to care. If you want to learn how to talk to spirits, if you want to learn how to connect with those, I would love to sit with you and chat. And the more people that we have in the chat, the better. It doesn't matter if there's 10 of you in it at a time. And I'm going to do another one in a couple of days and see if we can just keep doing this every so many days. And then as we build a base of people, Um, I'll read more and more reviews at a time. And yeah, like I've read 20, 30 people in a room at a time. Just, it's easy for me. So if you're willing to go on that trip with me and you're not embarrassed by what I say to you, and you're not embarrassed to have other people hear it that are in the chat as well, I will just blurt it out and I won't put a name on it, but you'll know it's you by something I've said, and we can go from there. Or if you want, you're welcome to come up with me on the live and we can talk about it. I plan on doing another one on the 27th. So if you are not busy on the 27th and you'd like to bring some friends into the chat with you, or some family members because you're missing your mom, or you're missing your spouse, or you're missing your dad or your sibling or your child, then bring those people in. And because all that energy together looking for that one person, chances are we're going to connect. And I'd really like to do that with you. It doesn't matter how long somebody's been dead for. I've had people come through that have been dead for, I'm going to say, over 100 years easily. For me, it came from my grandfather, what I can do. He was a chief, a grand chief, and I didn't know till about 6 years ago that I was actually Métis. And but as a child, I would have numerous dreams about drums beating and burial grounds, and that would wake me and it would terrify me. And I didn't even get the correlation between that till 6 years ago, prior to my mother passing. She told me that we were Métis and that they had been hidden by her parents and we were hidden so that we wouldn't go to residential school. So, I mean, I'm sad for the fact that I didn't have it all the way along my heritage, but I'm grateful for the fact that I didn't end up in a residential school and that we were passed off as French as opposed to being Métis. I can't, when I go into a funeral home, I draw the energy from all the dead people that are in there. The deads is what I call them. The dead people that are in there. And that energy makes me high. When I read people in a room here, and I'll have even from 1 up to 20 people that'll come to see me, I will get such energy that I draw from them that when I'm done all those readings, I can't sleep. I have more energy than anybody. And the more I do it, the faster I do it, the more people I can do at a time. And I just love doing it. So that's basically the easiest way to describe it to you. It gives me energy when I do it. It picks me up. It's like having 10 coffees, and I can't sleep. So there. Do I ever see death beforehand? Yes, I do. Like I was saying to you in premonitional dreams, I will see people being red rummed, and it's horrific, and I can't sleep for days. Sometimes it's what the deceased is telling me as they are passing on. Sometimes, like with the 2 children that I seen about 7 months ago, they didn't talk. which usually spirits talk to me. So that was a little unusual for me. I felt that they had been given something and that they weren't totally past at that time. So they weren't able to connect. They came back again. I had one other dream about them. I watched the little boy walk through the door first, and I believe it was, in my opinion, his mother that was standing there beside him, and that he walked into the dark mist, and his sister walked behind him apprehensively and said, "Mama," as she went by. And that stuck with me. So I started following true crime to see if I could get some answers to why that had occurred. Like, get some answers to which children they were. And I'm 99.9% sure I know which ones they were. Could I find where they were? I believe I could if I was there. And it is my goal to go. And I'm hoping next year to go down there and to find those children. I don't have to walk into the forest. I just have to step into the area and I will find them. That's the way I do things. So I don't make any quorums about it with people that want to argue. It's how I do things. Things come across like a film. So it's kind of like I'm watching a movie and I will see the people. I will see what has occurred, what's going to occur. And it, sometimes it's a bad film that you want to turn off and you can't. And other times it's just giving you the understanding into how things are. So I hope that helps you. And I'm really grateful that you took the opportunity to stop by today. And I would like to have you like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to email me at shareletstalk@gmail.com with your experiences so we can, perhaps you can come up on a live with me or we can go over your experiences. I'd love that. I've had all kinds of experiences, not only with ghosts and demons and with reading people, but I've also had the premonitional dreams and a few other weird things that have happened that I want to go over with you in the next few videos. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for coming to my chat today, stopping by on Christmas. I'd like to wish you a very Merry Christmas. And I hope to see you in the next chat. So if we don't have any more questions, give it a couple more minutes here, and then we are going to go. Thank you so much for stopping by, and Merry Christmas.